Right. Hello everyone. Right. Today's class. Right. We will go through the scenario-based interview question. Right. Selenium. Right. Selenium scenario-based interview question. These are the right. In interviews, they will ask right like this only. They will give some scenario and they will ask to explain it. Right. Very important. Right. Scenario-based interview questions. Right. There are. I have noted down different types of exception. How to resolve those. Right, when we will get and how to resolve those. Right, in interview also they will ask. Right, interviewer will ask like that only. Right, suppose you are getting this exception, how, when you will get this exception, how you will resolve. Right, we will see one by one. Right, we will see one by one. Right, first one is describe a scenario where you encountered no such element exception. How did you resolve it? Right, no such element exception, when you got it and how you resolved it. Right, for this we can explain. Right, example scenario. Right, you can tell. Right, you can tell one scenario. You can prepare for one scenario. I encountered this while automating login form, where where the submit button was not available in the DOM when the script tried to locate it. Right, you can take any scenario. This is, I have given one example. Suppose I want to click on the login form submit button, but it is not available. Right, and the script tried, it is not available. Steps taken to resolve it. Used WebDriver wait to wait for the element to be appear. Right, right. Used WebDriver wait. Verified the correct locator strategy and checked if the element is inside iframe and switch to it. Suppose, right, we have to verify if the element is inside a frame. Right, maybe we need to switch to it. Alright, in this case, WebDriver wait, we can use explicit wait and wait until the visibility of the element and then click on the element. Right, that is the steps to be taken to resolve it. Final outcome. What is the final outcome? The test script successfully waited for the button to be present before clicking. Prevent no such element exception. Right, whenever we will get no such element exception, we can explain. We can take any scenario in our project. You will automate lot of test cases. Right, you can take any scenario. Right, while doing this, we are getting no such element because of application is sometimes loading right slowly. Because of that, we are getting no such element exception. To make sure right element is visible, we have added a right WebDriver wait, then waited for it and clicked on it, so that we can right prevent from no such element exception. Right, this is first scenario. Second one is share an experience where you had handled stale element reference exception and what steps you have taken. Right, similarly stale element reference exception. Right, suppose stale element reference, a table. Here one scenario I have taken. A table row in a dynamic grid refreshed after clicking load more button, causing stale element when trying to interact with the row. Right, what is happening? A table is there. In a table there is a dynamic grid. A table row in a dynamic grid refreshed after clicking on a load more. If you click on row load more means what will happen? Table entire row, again entire table will refresh it. Now what will happen? It will cause a stale element reference exception when trying to interact with that row. Right, steps to be resolved it. Right, refetch the element. Used WebDriver wait to refetch the element. Wrapped actions in a retry mechanism. Wrapped actions in a retry mechanism. How? WebDriver wait, new WebDriver wait. First we have to create the WebDriver wait object, explicit. Then wait until expected condition to be refreshed. Expected conditions to be refreshed, and then visibility of the element located. That is TR of 1. Alright, so that what will happen? It will fetch that after refreshing, expected condition to be refreshed, page to be refreshed, then it will fetch again that row. Right, then click on it, we will not get. Right, otherwise what we have to do? Stale element different ways are there. This is one of the best way. We can wait for the element to be refreshed. Alright, suppose you are clicking on the some element, then entire that portion of the table is refreshing. Alright, we are waiting for the refresh, then get the row and click on it. Right, otherwise we have to try and catch. Right, in the catch block we have to handle or for loop. Multiple times we can retry for the element. Right, final outcome, the script successfully located and interacted with the refresh element without throwing stale element reference exception. Right, but when we will get stale element exception, right? Stale means what? Old one. That means suppose I have identified one element. But after, right, I want to do some operations on that in the next steps. But in middle what will happen? Right, in middle, because of some click, something happened, entire page was refreshed. Now I have identified already element, right? Same page, that will become stale element. That is become a no more attached to the DOM. Fresh DOM is loaded. Now without reloading that, if I click on it, without reloading page, if I click on it again, if I take that element reference and click enter, send keys or click, we will get a stale element obviously, because that element is no more attached to the DOM. So we should not do such mistakes. First identify the, right, because of page refreshes, mostly we will get this as a stale element exception. Right, then next one is how do you handle element not visible exception? Element not visible exception when an element is present in the DOM but not visible on the page. Right, it is visible on the DOM but not visible on the page. This is one more tricky question. A drop down menu was present in the DOM but not visible until, this is the example scenario. Right, element not visible exception. Right, some drop downs, React applications, right, recent right, new Angular JS or React application, what will happen? Drop downs, whenever we will mouse over, then only it will populate the options. In those cases, what, sometimes, right, DOM also will not be visible, but sometimes here question is DOM is visible but element is not visible on the page. Right, whenever we will mouse over, then only element visible. Right, steps to be taken, used JavaScript executor to scroll into the view, and then or used actions class to over or reveal the dropdown. First we can scroll it, JavaScript executor, we can scroll into view. Then by using the actions class, we can mouse over on the element, it will drop down will open. Then we can click on that. Right, drop down become visible, allowing interaction without any exception. And one more is describe the situation where your test failed due to timeout exception. How did you address this issue? Right, a test failed when waiting for a search result to load due to slow server response. Scenario is a test is failed when waiting for a search result. I have clicked on search. It is taking some time to load the page due to slow server response. Server is responding very slow. I am waiting for the result. Then what will happen? We will get timeout exception. Right. Increase. To resolve it, what we have to do? Increase the explicit wait time. Suppose I have given 20 seconds. If server is responding very slow, sometimes loading, sometimes not loading, right? Then we have to increase our time. Increased explicit time or used fluent wait for polling, for better polling control. Right, used fluent wait or explicit wait. In any cases, we have to increase the time. Right, wait until then we can wait until the element is visible. Then final outcome is the test is handled so responsible, passed reliably. Right, can you explain the scenario where an element click intercept exception occurred? How did you resolve it? Element click intercepted exception. Element click intercepted exception. Right. Suppose a model window covered a login button. Right, a login button is there, but a model window covered that login button, preventing direct click. Right, a modal window is covering the login button to click on it. Right, in those cases we will get element click intercepted exception. Right, some element is visible but that is covering by another element. Right, when we are trying to click on it, element click intercepted exception we will get. Steps to be taken to use JavaScript click to bypass the obstruction. Use JavaScript executor. Then we can arguments.0.click, arguments of 0.click, and then find the element. We can click it by using JavaScript executor. We can click on that to such cases. How did you? One more is how did you handle unexpected alert exception? Unexpected alert exception. Example scenario is a confirmation alert unexpectedly appear after form submission. Right. Once we submit the form, sometimes what will happen unexpectedly confirmation alert is came. Then how to resolve it? Switch to that alert and accept it. Switch to that and accept it. Right. Then describe the real-time scenario where you encounter invalid selector exception. How did you fix the issue? Describe the real-time scenario where you encountered an invalid selector exception. How did you fix? Right. An invalid XPath caused a test failure. An invalid XPath, whenever we will use, right? Suppose I have written a XPath, but I am using CSS by.css, but by mistakenly I have given XPath, then we will get invalid selector. But here an invalid XPath caused a test failure. Steps to be corrected the XPath syntax. Right, correct XPath we need to give. Invalid selector means when we will get, suppose I am trying to click by using ID. Suppose I have provided ID, but I have given by.css. Right, it will give invalid selector exception. We are using one method, but inside syntax was different, then we will get invalid selector exception. Right, then how do you handle scenarios where the elements are dynamically loaded, causing intermittent test failure synchronization issues? Right. For this also, right, if synchronization issues means we have to use the either explicit wait or fluent wait. Explicit wait, fluent wait we can use, right, and then wait for the element presence of, right here expected conditions, presence of element located. Presence of element located. Wait for the element to be located on the page and then do the operation. Right. Right, then provide an example where you used fluent wait to handle the element that appeared with a delay. We can take an element to unpredictable time to load. You can take any scenario in our correct. You can take a login scenario. Okay, after clicking on the login button, right after clicking on the login button, maybe right to load the main page after login, it is taking some time. Right, then we can wait by using fluent wait. By using fluent wait, we can overcome that scenario. Right, you can in our project you can take any example. Right, we have to remember the scenarios in our project. Right, we can take and explain that. Describe a situation where the network latency issues are affected your test execution. How did you mitigate this? Right, API responses were delayed and affecting test execution. Sometimes what will happen, network latency means due to API calls. Whenever we will click on the button, right, submit button or any buttons, if we click, right, what will happen, back and API call will go to server, it will retrieve the response, populate in the UI. But due to network latencies, that API call is taking some time to populate the data in the UI. Right, here also we can use explicit wait or retry logic. Explicit wait or retry logics. Right, then next one is right, explain how you handle race condition caused by the Ajax call in our test. right? Race condition caused by the an Ajax call, right? A text interacted with an element before Ajax call request completed, right? Here what is happening? Race condition means we are, right? Suppose you are clicked on some element, some Ajax call went to server to fetch the data, right? Before that only we move to next, right? We don't know whether Ajax call is completed or not, right? Then we will move to next element to do the action, right? Then we will get that such type of issues. Steps to be taken: waited for loading spinner, right? Sometimes how we will identify these things? Whenever we will click Ajax call, right, it will load the page, then some spinners will come, right? Some spinners will come, right? For those we can wait invisibility of element, right? We can wait until that disappears, right? We can wait until that spinner disappear, invisibility of element, right? By using this we can avoid that condition, right? Describe a time when your test had to interact with an element that had dynamic IDs and classes. How you will handle, right? See, questions are answers will be same only, right, for every question, but questions will be typical, right? Based we will confuse about, right? These questions are, if we straightforward, they will ask, right? It is very easy for it. Suppose if they will ask how do you handle dynamic element, then you can say, right? There are right, they are asking like describe a time when you had a interact with an element that had dynamic IDs classes. How do you handle it? This is also same thing, right? We have to dynamic elements means we have to use the relative export contains or starts with, or CSS locators starts with ends with contains. We can use those and we can handle dynamic IDs. How do you automate file download functionality in a web application where the file name and type are dynamic, right? We can take some scenario. Maybe I want to download weekly report of the students or something, right? Then for download means we can, right, we can tell once we click, sometimes what will happen, it will directly open on the browser instead of downloading, right? How you will resolve, right? This is the scenario I got it. Whenever we will click on the download button, it is opening in the browser, it is not downloading. Then we have taken a steps to take and resolve it, right? We have created Chrome options, we add user profile preference, right? Chrome options, add user profile preference, download default locatory, default directory, right? We can give C colon downloads or any path, right? So that what will happen, if you click on it next time, right, if you execute and click on it, it will download to C drive download, right? This is one more scenario. Then discuss a scenario where you had to automate a captcha and what approach did you take. Discuss a scenario where you had a automatic captcha and what approach you took. A captcha block test automation, right? But say by using Selenium we cannot automate it. By using Selenium we cannot automate it. We have to use the third party captcha resolved, right? There are third party captcha, some are paid one, mostly paid ones are available, right? By using those, if it is a really required, client want that scenario to be automated, we have to purchase the license of that. We can do that. We can say we purchased a captcha solver third party API. By using that we have bypassed our captcha. Then one more question: explain how you ensure your test runs successfully across multiple browsers with multiple different behaviors, right? For this, an element behave differently in Firefox versus Chrome, right? Steps to be taken, right? Suppose if it is in right, we can set like edge options, right? This is one scenario here. They have given Firefox and Chrome, but we can say we have faced different issue in the Chrome and Edge. Right, edge options we can create, set capabilities, some capability true, what right final outcome, the test adapted different browsers, right. This is one way of doing, or we can do, right. Sometimes Chrome will work with some locator, Firefox will work with some locator, right. In those cases we have to identify what is the driver type, right, instance of driver, and we can, based on the type of the driver, we can write the code. But mostly in Selenium 4, right, in Selenium 3 we can get it, but Selenium 4 W3 standards, right, they are changed protocol, W3C protocol. Now what will happen, mostly we will not get these type of issues because all browsers are following W3 standards. Our Selenium is also following W3C. Script should work in all browsers same way. But if we face this type of scenario, just comment in the comments, right? Just comment in the comment section what you have done. Right? How did you manage test data scenarios where the data dependencies were critical for the test execution? How did you manage test data scenarios where test data dependencies were critical for tests are dependent on dynamic database values, right? Sometimes what will happen, our test is dependent on dynamic database values. Then used data driven testing, right? Some cases what will happen, our test case our test case, right, dependent on dynamic data. In those cases what we can do, data driven testing. We can do the data driven testing, right. We can achieve by using test engine data provider. We can get the data dynamically from the database, or we can generate it and we can achieve it. Give an example of complex XPath CSS selector you created to interact with a challenging web element. Right, needed to select a specific button in a table. Right, maybe you can take your own. Needed to select a specific button in a table. Right, this a little bit right. I want to form the table particular row and column. I have to click on the button. For that we have to write a some dynamic XPath to identify that button, right. This is one scenario. Then how did you handle browser specific issues in your Selenium test, right. Browser specific issues, suppose an element inside a iframe, steps to be taken, switch to frame, right. Sometimes we will get some browser will have frame, some browser maybe this scenario may get, right. In those cases we have to switch to frame and we have to handle the elements. Describe a situation where you had to automate web application that used frames or iframes. How did you manage it? Right, same question. While automating a application, I encountered a scenario where key elements were embedded in a frame. Direct interaction we cannot do. Element, if it is element is in a frame, what will happen we don't know, right? Visually we cannot see it is in a frame or not. Right, element we can able to identify, right. In the browser you can open inspect it, element will be visible, but while executing script we will get no such element, we will confuse, right. Why it is happening, right. We will spend sometimes I also lot of time we will forget about iframe those things, right. And then we will change this locator, that locator, right. We will get no such element only, right. Finally we will see that iframe, it is inside iframe, right. Whenever we are getting, right, no such element, it is visible in the browser, right. While inspecting we must be very careful. We should must know, okay, maybe it is an iframe, we should get immediately such a, right, cross questions, right. Otherwise we will spend lot of time, right, waste of time, and finally we found silly things, right. We must be very careful. Switch to iframe, then handle it, right. That's it. Switch to frame. Switch to frame we can do multiple ways, right. Switch to frame by using index, by using IDR name or web element. If you want to switch to main page, default content. We can also switch to parent also. If we are in a multiple frames, parent child. If you are in a child, you want to move to parent, we can use parent. Right, next question is explain how you handle a scenario where your test case needed to interact with a non-web based component such as file uploading dialogs box. Right, in those cases, mostly sometimes send keys, if it is an input tag, see, send keys if a file input was available. If it is a tag was input tag, right? Type file, input type file, then send keys will work directly. Some cases input type file is not there, different tags are there. Then we have to use either robot or auto-it. By using robot class, right, use Java robot class OS based pop-ups. We can use robot class create and then we can get the string selection of path, string selection path, and then we have to see toolkit dot get default toolkit get system clipboard set contents. We have to set the this path to clipboard. Then what we have to just we are copying this location to clipboard, then simulating, right, then simulating control V and enter to paste file path to submit. Now after copying, what we have to do, that one we have to paste in the, right, that window open, whatever opened, key press control V. Control V means what? Paste and release. These four lines are control V and then press enter. Right. Each step will have key press, key release, key press, key release. Right. Right. This is the OS native one. Otherwise, auto IT. We can use auto IT also. There will be right predefined steps we have. Auto IT we have to install it and then we can open and right, we can write these steps. It will create some file, that exe file. That exe file we have to execute it, then that script will execute. We have to record the script, it will generate one script, then that will have to execute it. By using auto it also we can do. Describe how you handle session management and state maintenance in tests that required login or logout action. Right. Suppose I worked on an application where each test case required login authentication, but repeatedly logging in out for every test increased the execution time and added unnecessary overhead. For this, reused the session token. Right, reused the session token. Logged in once and extracted the session cookie. Right, logged in once, extracted the session cookie, injected that cookie into WebDriver session for subsequent test cases. Right, we can get right driver dot manage dot get cookie named session ID, session cookie. We can get that cookie we can add to driver dot manage dot add cookie. Then implemented a singleton WebDriver instance, ensured that the same browser instance was used across the using singleton. Right, what will happen? We have to use the single instance only. Right, every time we have to use this cookie and use the API authentication for session creation. Right, instead of UI login also we can also use API request to generate authentication token and inject into the session. We can use the any API REST assured or HTTP client. Right, we can use API get the session and add to the driver. Either way we can do. Right, we can log into the browser, we can get the session, we can add to the driver, or by using based on whatever possibility. Right, all will not give developers will not give all these possibilities. Whatever possibility we have, if we want to log into UI, then log in UI, get the session, add to the driver. Or if it is API call is there, it is the best one. We can execute the API call, get the session ID, add to the add cookie. Right. Ensure logout and clean up after test. We have to delete all cookies. We have to make sure that after once the logout, once before logging in, logout, we have to clear the all the cookies. Right, like this we can handle the session management. Right, provide an example where you used soft sessions to continue test execution after an session failure. Right, in scenario where I validated multiple UI elements on a page using hard assertions caused test to stop. However, I need to verify multiple elements in one test without stopping the execution. This is the scenario we got. Right, I want to validate all the elements in a UI. If I have used right odd assertion, assert equals is the odd assertion. What will happen if it is failure? It will not validate remaining. It will fail. But I want to validate all. For that, I used a soft assertion. Right, we can create a soft assertion object, and we can do soft assert equal right soft assert true. We can do, and finally we can call assert tab. So that what will happen? It will not, if it is failed also, it will not terminate the test case. It will go for a validate all the assertion and it will show which are failed. And here even one assertion is failed, the test does not stop immediately. Soft assert ensure all failures are reported at the end. Benefits, what are the benefits? Helps in validating multiple elements in a single test. Avoid stopping the test abruptly. Improve debugging by reporting all assertion failures in one run. Right? You can take anything DB, right? DB thing you can take. You want to validate a DB versus UI, right? After suppose you want to creating a some form, right? You are creating some form. After clicking on that DB, it is saved. Now I want to validate whatever I passed in the UI. Same thing in the DB saved or not. In that case also we can use soft assertion. Right, I want to verify whatever UI passed DB. Both first name, last name, right? First name, last name, all. I want to validate all and show the report, whichever is failed. Right, I don't want to type first name itself is failed. I don't want to terminate the test case. I want to continue. I want to validate first name, last name, email, phone, and whichever is not saved correctly, I want to show. Right, that is also one more scenario. These are the different right scenario based questions we can expect, right? These are all we know questions, but way of asking right question is different, right? These are all I think these are all very helpful to you, right? You think these are all help to you to achieve right your interview. Just please subscribe to my channel and just comment it out and right like the like if you want share to your friends also. If you want more discussion on any question, right, any scenario, just please comment section in the comment it out. We will discuss more on it, right? Thanks for watching.